good news, guys. Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk are potentially fighting with a 50-50 split in December or summertime of 2023. Now, the summer of 2023 time would simply happen if the Saudis do not accept the offer of hosting the fight. If it's going to be on UK soil for Tyson Fury, the fight would just end up happening on the summer. It wouldn't happen any earlier, so we'd have to wait a very long time, almost an entire year, for that matchup to happen. And looking back on AJ versus Usyk, looking back on this matchup just to reflect on it and to put into perspective this matchup between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Usyk and AJ, when they fought both times, the first one was in UK soil, and Anthony Joshua got completely outboxed, and Usyk won those two fights. Tyson Fury has something to worry about here. Many people believe that Tyson Fury is going to outbox him, he's going to knock him out. People think as if Tyson Fury is too big and too strong for Oleksandr Usyk, and personally, I think Usyk is going to outbox him. Now, you may say, no way, Fury has a longer reach advantage and he is probably the superior boxer. Now, I don't believe that for a second, that Tyson Fury is a superior boxer, but I do believe one thing, and that is this. Oleksandr Usyk has the set of legs and a set of speed that Tyson Fury would not be able to compete with on a boxing spectrum. He would not have those types of attributes that he would have against a bigger opponent who's more stationary. You know, you can't do the same thing that you did to Dillian White to Oleksandr Usyk. Usyk is just going to outbox you and is going to run you over, and he's going to make you look uncoordinated. Fury's reach advantage isn't going to be very useful in this matchup, because we've seen before, or throughout Fury's history as a boxer, of his reach advantage not being very useful against a smaller fighter who's just simply too quick and who he cannot detect. So it's not a reach thing that's going to help him win this fight. It's going to be his physicality and being able to bully Oleksandr Usyk. Anthony Joshua cannot fight. You may say that's a bold thing to say, but he can fight, but he just cannot fight rough and fight dirty. He's not that good of a dirty fighter, and for him to beat Oleksandr Usyk, he should have used more dirty tactics. He should have used what Vladimir Klitschko did when it was leading over opponents, but that's just not his game. And that's probably what cost him the fight. Now, moving on to the retirement between Tyson Fury and that WBC belt. Well, my theory is, now that he's back and he's ready to fight again, is that he saw Usyk struggling. He saw Usyk struggling with Anthony Joshua, so he was like, you know what? Okay, I'm willing to fight this individual. Usyk looks vulnerable, because in the first fight, he didn't look vulnerable. He looked unstoppable. He looked scary, actually. He looked crazy in that fight. That was a spectacular performance. But for the rematch, Anthony Joshua initiated more and made the fight a lot more competitive by being more physical. Even though he still lost, it made Usyk look a lot more vulnerable and potentially able to get stopped, which he can. You know, he could have got stopped at cruiserweight as well, but nobody could just do it. AJ was the closest one to stopping Usyk, but still. Now, I know none of y'all believe that Tyson Fury actually retired from this fight. He did not. Well, not from the fight, but that he actually didn't retire from the sport. That's complete nonsense. He couldn't even pull the Floyd Mayweather. The Floyd Mayweather thing was a lot better, because he actually vacated those titles and was inactive for an entire year while Antonio Margarito reigned as champion, and he came back a year after when the belt was taken from Margarito. Tyson Fury couldn't do the same thing. He tried, but he didn't want to let go of that belt. And secondly, Usyk looked vulnerable at a perfect time for Fury to come back. So I don't know what that retirement thing was about, but it obviously was fraudulent. I feel like he should have actually retired to not mess with his name and his reputation, sort of, but it probably wasn't even that effective. Now, looking back at Tyson Fury's career, Tyson Fury versus Steve Cunningham. This is an outlier when it comes to speaking about Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk. Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk is going to be familiar to Tyson Fury versus Steve Cunningham. Steve Cunningham is a coordinated cruiserweight. Oleksandr Usyk is a coordinated cruiserweight. The thing about Oleksandr Usyk, though, is that Usyk is even quicker. He's even quicker on the legs. He has even quicker feet than Steve Cunningham. But the power dynamic probably goes to Steve Cunningham. I'm not sure. I can't really determine or judge that. But Steve Cunningham for sure did drop Tyson Fury and give him a run for his money in that fight. The fight was very competitive. It was a lot more competitive than people would have seen. If people saw Steve Cunningham versus Tyson Fury at the time, I would have only assumed that people would have been like, there's no way this guy beats Klitschko. There's no way this guy who got dropped by Steve Cunningham, who was essentially losing on the scorecards, is going to be a Klitschko. And that's how boxing fans think, if you're struggling against this opponent, you're not going to beat this guy. That's what they thought against, that's what they thought with Usyk versus Chisora. Now, for Tyson Fury's weight gain, this is far after the Steve Cunningham fight. This is after the second Deontay Wilder fight. Tyson Fury's weight gain is going to be an advantage and a disadvantage. I think if he fought Anthony Joshua, it would be a disadvantage. If not, but since he's fighting Usyk, it's an advantage, I guess. I think even if Tyson Fury weighed 260 or 250 or 240, he still would have been able to muscle Usyk down and been able to, use his physicality to dominate in Oleksandr Usyk. But, it would make sense for Usyk to come more heavy. Not for Usyk. It would make sense for Tyson Fury to come more heavy to put that body weight on Usyk and to get Usyk tired and sluggish, just like he did with Deontay Wilder in the second fight. And that's what I expect for Tyson Fury's game plan, pretty much. I don't expect Tyson Fury to try to box with Usyk. If he does try to box with Usyk, he's not winning. And if he does win, I'd be very surprised. But he's not winning a boxing match with Oleksandr Usyk unless Usyk ages overnight. So that's my belief. And comparing the Tyson Fury to the past to now, for me personally, I like Tyson Fury with the past. I like the slickster Tyson Fury. I don't like how Tyson Fury weighs over 250 pounds. From my perspective, I like him at 140 at his best. Even though he may feel better at 270, I just like how he fights at 240 pounds. I think he looks like an actual physical specimen there. And as for the potential matchup in December for if Saudi Arabia accepts, I would love to see the fight earlier than later. It would be nice to see during the school year. It would be nice to see during the summer too. I think both would help, but I just want to see it as quick as now, because I just want to see how the fight goes. That's just my personal opinion. I just want to see how it goes. I want to see what happens as a result of that matchup happening. And I would love to know and love to get answers that we've always been asking for. Like, are we ever going to see Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua? I'm not sure. I hope so. I hope one day it happens. Now, this may be controversial, but from my perspective, I don't think Tyson Fury's reach is going to be an advantage. I don't think it is. I think conventionally, having a longer reach is a gigantic advantage. It's a very significant advantage to have a longer reach, but against a fighter like Oleksandr Usyk, who you cannot detect and you're struggling to box with on a competitive scale, it's not. And with that being said, Tyson Fury can land a little bit of a jab on Usyk. It's just that Usyk is going to dodge all those things and probably land something of his own. And this is where I say it would be a mixture of a disadvantage and an advantage if Tyson Fury came higher or lower in weight. If he came lower, he would be more quick and probably with quicker hand speed, therefore making it easier for him to land shots. But if he comes in lighter, his physicality may not be as prevalent, leading to him potentially getting outboxed. It's just a lot of ideas coming together, and I'm not sure which one to choose. Looking at all of these matchups and undisputed fights happening, there is still no news about Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, about it being official yet or anything, and that's terrible, man. Dang. Shoot. But thank you guys for watching. trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. So yeah, subscribe for the squad. Yeah. Bye guys. Thank you for watching.